All righty, Matt Morrison. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Happy to be talking with you. Um, not just talking to a former Bowling Green Purple, but
All right.
my one of my mentors as well. So awesome. Glad you could do this and taking
Yeah.
time.
No, this is great. Glad you're doing it.
Awesome. So just give me a little background on yourself and
Yeah.
this your kind of if you're sitting next to somebody on a plane, like
Yeah.
what do you do?
Man, that's a good question. No, we're in a good spot in life. We got three little kids. They're not little anymore. Hadley, our oldest, is 15 now. So we've got three girls and, met my wife right after college and, was living in Bowling Green and still living in Bowling Green and, had some good mutual faithful friends that hooked us up and kind of met on Facebook. That maybe not proud of that. My kids want to do online dating. Like, oh, well, I would never do that. Well, I guess I kind of did before there was online dating. You had to be on college to be on Facebook, but no, sent her a friend request, and somehow it's all downhill after that. But now we've been married 17 years now, and we've got a great life. But went to Western and got involved in athletics like most young kids. You just love sports. You love sports, and ran across a buddy of ours, Brian Simpson, and knew him from Bowling Green High days and being at Bowling Green. And he was like, "Man, I work in athletics. You need to come work for me." And I'm like, "What do you mean you work in athletics? You a coach?" Like, even though as much sports that I played in my life and loved it, didn't really know you could have a good job in college athletics without it being a coach, right? So, being in college and trying to figure out what you want to do, I'm like, well, yeah, why not? So, did the whole sports and recreation degree and got started and had some good mentors. We had some great years at Western Kentucky and a lot of great athletic directors and got into what most people would consider sales. For me, it was never really about chasing the money and hitting those goals. Like I truly enjoyed the relationship part of sales and got involved in a ticket office, as you know, and the ticket office at the time was just kind of an inbound call center, and with college athletics changing and the revenue generation model, and my personality, it just kind of fit that mold to become more outbound and be more aggressive in what we were doing and in sales and tickets, and then that led into marketing and sponsorships and the athletic foundation and just kind of the overall, there for 13, 14 years, 15 years, it just kind of became that revenue generating ideas and putting plans together and having a good staff and what could we do to kind of keep chasing everybody in college athletics and not fall behind and obviously the from what initially started as BCS money and everything that was going on in college athletics and revenue generating, it was a good time to be a part of college athletics. Now it's totally changed, obviously with the NIL and everything that's going on. But for me, it was a great start being in the ticket office and doing the foundation side of things and the fundraising and the relationships that were built. And my parents had started a small business. My dad worked in the security industry. He was working for ADT at the time, kind of mid to late 90s. And then it got, a little too corporate for him. And so, he looked in the mirror and said, man, I can just do this myself. I've got enough relationships in Bowling Green and I know the product, I know what I'm doing. And so he took him and another guy, an installer, and started their own, small security alarm business. And 25 years later, we're still kicking. He passed away at the end of 2020. It was a heart attack, and so just kind of left mom here at the business. And while she was definitely the backbone of everything going on day to day, he was kind of the one out front leading the charge. And so kind of left a hole there to fill and spent some time praying, trying to figure out, because at the time I just built that life of athletics like that. That was, it's sad to say, but like it becomes your identity. It's like, Matt, tickets, Western, and just really took a step back to kind of analyze the family and where we were at. And there was no way I could continue to kind of, watch my mom, struggling with just not just, losing your spouse, but like, your main business partner too. So um, made the decision after, I don't know, 4 or 5 months to leave Western, leave college athletics, and come help her kind of run the family business. And so, don't regret it for a second. Had a great job in college athletics, but there's no doubt that, um, regardless of finances and futures or any of those things, I mean, at the end of the day, we've always been about our family and obviously our faith. And I'll never look back and regret coming over and helping my mom keep things going. And she's at the point now to where she can come into work. She doesn't necessarily probably have to come into work, but she'll come in and do all the billing and invoicing and kind of behind the scenes clean up a lot of my messes still probably. Um, but no, she's in a good spot, and family's in a good spot, and really are blessed to have the family we have and three beautiful girls, and we just run around every day, try to keep everybody safe and healthy, and enjoy life. So there's no doubt, being in the small business world is a lot different than what college athletics was. Obviously, it's more of the, I don't want to call it corporate America, but it's more of the big business feel. And then you get into small athletics or get into small business, and it changes a lot. We used to say it a lot. People would go out to dinner and this and that, and it's easy when you're spending somebody else's money. And so we would always challenge our staff, treat it like it's yours. Um, and so being on the small business side, it is you every day. You fall short or you mess up some quotes or this or that. Like, it affects your bottom line, which is your back pocket. So you got to make payroll every week and take care of your staff. And so the stress and pressure, I feel like we worked a ton in college athletics, right? Games aren't 8 to 5 Monday to Friday, they're nights and weekends. But the amount of stress and pressure of small business is I just have a ton of respect for people, especially the mom and pop type small businesses that have been able to make it, because I totally understand what those people go through to be successful, and it's tough. But I'm blessed to watch my parents work hard and build a good little business in town. And who knows what the next stage will be for us, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's awesome, man. And I wanted to touch on you and I kind of have a similar background of that. I left Western pretty much right after the heart of COVID and you the same time and
Yeah,
for different reasons. Obviously you taking over your family business. Um, but when, I left and Jesse and I moved back to Princeton, her hometown, there were some times I called you. I was like, how are you navigating
yeah,
not being in the college world? Because you hit it like that was your identity. That was my identity. Like
yeah.
that's what we did, and it did it for a long time. Just talk a little bit about just kind of moving out of that realm into what you're doing now, and just kind of rediscovering
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, I felt like I handled it, fairly well. And I don't think when I first made the move, I would have never said like, college athletics, WKU, like that was my identity.
Mhm.
Who knows whether it's 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, really looking back, I was just like, man, like that's when you're going to lunch, right? In the lunch bunch with Biggs and Gaddy and the guy, you're going out, like people see you, hey, oh, what's team look like this year? What's this? What's that? Kids on campus, like it just became when people saw you knew what was coming, and so it totally changed, right? And then the amount of text messages you still get 6 months later of, hey, I need 2 tickets for tomorrow night's game. Can you help me? Can you help me? And it's like, man, I'm not there anymore. And they're like, well, what do I do? I'm like, well, call the office, like 10,000 other people do every year. Um, but no, it was, and then it kind of finally hit me after a while. Um, not in a bad way, but it was just like, man, it was almost like looking back of, not that I wasted time, but it was like, man, that's a shame that when I was there that I that I viewed myself as being so important to have, like I have to be at work. A Saturday morning football game, I had to be there at 6 a.m. And I just felt like I had to do those things because that was who I was. And I think a lot of it, as you can probably attest to, a lot of it's kids, man. When you build that family, and whether it's, you see your kids sick or they're crying for the first time and somebody mistreated them, or their first, breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend. And so it's those moments that you sit back and you're like, all right, what am I really about? Like, what's important? When I'm sitting here at 60 years old on the front porch by myself, hopefully my wife's still with me, but when I'm sitting on, it's just me and her sitting on the front porch, where are we going to find our value?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, they hired another ticket guy. They hired another HAF guy. They've got another marketing person. Western's fine, but my children, the impact and the legacy that I'll leave them, like that's when it really hit me of like what my true value is. And so, for us, it's kind of having that eternal mindset of, when our kids leave the house, when they walk out at 18 years old, did we do everything we could for them to trust God in every way of their life and know that He loves them and just the power of the cross and all those things. And that's, that was just kind of that reset. And it was probably, losing a parent is part of that, and having kids is a part of that. And so, my mom always says things about, stages of life. And at that stage, it just really hit me of, what do I want my identity to be? And at the end of the day, it wasn't the red towel. It was, what am I doing for my kids? What am I doing for my family? And make sure I leave an impact on them, not, you know, helping people get a free T-shirt and a red towel and all the things we were doing. I love that, and I still love Western. And maybe I end up there someday again. Like, who knows? But as far as me personally and my family, um, it was kind of that reset of making sure that I'm pouring everything into what God's trusted me with, which is three beautiful girls and my wife, right? And then obviously still taking care of my mom and my sister and her family and my wife's family, things like that. But it was just kind of having that reset and having that like eternal mindset of what we're looking forward to and what life's all about. And I needed it, because if I was still in college athletics, I don't know. Hopefully, it still would have hit me the same way. But with where we were at in life and losing dad and taking care of mom and the business and all the things that were going on, it was a good reset, that I needed and we needed as a family. And I don't feel like we ever had priorities like really far out of line. But I think just me personally and my identity and what I was about, I got, I need to be the husband and the father that God intended me to be. So
Yeah, yeah. I think you nailed it. It's come down to priorities of, you know, when I first got into college athletics, it's fun. It's
yeah,
fun being down the field. It's fun going to bowl games. It's fun doing all the other stuff. And I'll ask if you agree that college athletics, it's either a single person's game or a married person's game without kids, or, you know, possibly an older person's game that their kids are already grown.
yeah,
It's
no, I
hard to
mean,
do. It's hard to make Saturday soccer games in the morning when you got, a football game on Saturday.
yeah, and everything like kind of to scale. At Western, being that mid-major, you're trying to do more with less.
Hmm.
And what that turns into is, your staff. I mean, you got to work like dogs to be able to keep up, because, I do see friends and the opportunities I had to go to other places to where, it's life isn't that bad. When you get to the bigger schools and everything's segmented and you kind of got your silo and you hang out over there and everything's good, and it was kind of that, big fish in a small pond kind of thing. But man, there was a lot of hours and a lot of work. And there's no doubt college athletics, when you looked around in the offices, it's kind of like, the young and single and thriving, or young and married with no kids and thriving. It's hard to continue to climb that ladder. Not necessarily climb the ladder, but it's hard to put as much into it as as a 25 and 30-year-old once you get into your 40s, especially when you've got, there's just not many families, as that that have three kids and work in college athletics,
Right.
outside of maybe coaches, and with their salary and the family structure, that probably makes a little more sense. But you don't see a lot of internal staff, with big families, and I think a lot of it's just because the time commitment, that you have to make for the athletic department. And is that right or wrong? To each their own. You can do what you want to in life, and however you feel, however you lay your head down at night and have value, is on you. But it was definitely getting to the point, and I could feel it, and I could tell, the part of being professionally successful and then being the good husband, dad, like, that it was really getting to that point with the third kid. It's like, man, I can't do all the things that I think I'm expected to be,
Right.
which was part of that reset of, all right, who's, God really made me to be here, and number one's, a husband and a dad right now. So, um, and that's hard, college athletics. I mean, I'm not a female, but being around, the Lindsays and Cats and Ginas and a lot of the females, that had kids in college athletics too, from their end, it's like, man, that's tough too. I can't imagine, being a mom. I mean, we had a baby on Friday and I was at work on Monday. I mean, what am I doing? Right? Like, Melanie, we have Matt. I don't remember which kid it was. It was probably, I think it was Madeline, right? Because it was in the middle of football season. And she was October 12th, October 12th. It was when she was born, right in the middle of football season, homecoming week. And literally, she has baby Friday. I'm at work Monday. Like, when you talk about priorities, and then when Keela was born, 3 weeks later, I go to a bowl game, for a week, and here's, Mel at home with three kids. One of them's a newborn, 3 weeks old, and I'm gone for 5 or 6 days. So there's no doubt that it puts strain and pressure, at home, especially, when you're a young family. So it was tough. It was tough to juggle those things of what I'm expected to do, and then what I'm expected to be at home. Like, that was just that was a hard fight, and I can't imagine if I was still there. Kind of, and it's stages. As the kids get older, you might miss some games and things, but the help at home is not as bad. But man, when you're young and leaving the wife at home for the weekend with a 2-year-old and a newborn and a 5-year-old, like, that's that's a tough spot. That's a tough spot to stay in. So,
Right.
uh, but it was to your point. When you're young, getting on the sidelines the first time, it's like, I can't imagine anything better than this. I just got on a plane, then went to the Bahamas for a bowl game. Like, you can't tell me there's a better job, for a 24, 25-year-old dude. And it was a lot of fun, and because of those experiences, I've still been able to be successful in the next stage of life. But
Let's talk about that a little bit.
yeah,
Besides the hard part with family, there were some fun parts.
yeah.
What do your couple, maybe top three memorable moments of your time at Western?
I look across here, all of our little trophies and rings and bowl game stuff, and I mean, there was a stretch where I went to the Bahamas like 4 times, right, for college athletics. That I will say, from an experience standpoint, the NCAA tournament stuff is about as sweet as it gets. So going to Kansas and being part of the Sweet 16 run of Tampa, really that NIT Final Four, with Stansberry's group, that was a cool trip. Enjoyed that. And still in the Stansbury time, the battle for Atlantis, being down there, and beat Purdue when we were down there and playing Villanova. They were top team in the country. So, man, there's too many. I mean, I was blessed to be in a good position of, jumping on some private planes with some really cool people, and I'll never forget being on the. So we would go down early for a site visit for the bowl games, me and Biggs and some, the ops guys for football, and Jeff would fly, Coach Braun would fly down and do the press conference, and we'd fly back with them. And, a donor was gracious enough to lend their plane to us. And I'll never forget coming back from Bahamas. It's late, where you have to fly into West Palm Beach and go through customs and everything before a certain time. So we're hustling to be sure we don't have to spend the night on the tarmac there in the plane. And actually, it was the first time I'd ever noticed Donald Trump's big plane is there, and he gets in a helicopter. It's just this experience. I'm like, what am I doing, right? Like, I'm just selling tickets and helping donors get in hotel rooms. But I look back in the back of the plane, and Coach Brown. Jeff's just going crazy. He's just drawing up thing like the annex of Puerto Rico type, right? He's just drawing up all these plays in the back of the plane, and I'll never forget that, because guys like him, they just never stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
And which, you can see the success that he's had and just the offensive mind he is. But no, man, those bowl games and postseason stuff, especially basketball. But man, there's so many. You just create the brotherhood and the camaraderie with everybody. And when we were younger, I mean, Andrew Deere and Craig Biggs, going to eat 3 plates at Shogun and then go run in the drive-through like this. You're just always talking trash and you're there all the time. I was with them more than anybody in my family, and those late nights. We're sitting there at concerts, and we did tickets for a lot of external events, and we were really lucky to have some really cool artists. And one night, we had Jason Aldean and Lady Antebellum and Miranda Lambert, right, in the same concert in Diddle Arena. It was like $75,000. Them now that'd be $2 million to get them all together, same stage. So, too many good experiences. Was really blessed. Everything's timing's everything in life, and when I was at Western, it always seemed like whenever I would hit the ceiling, it's like, I might have to find another job now as my family's growing. And just somebody always left at the time. And then I was able to take on a little bit more. And, I definitely got the good timing award when I was at Western and, put myself in some really cool spots to be able to travel and do those things. But you can go to the Bahamas 4 or 5 times for work. It's not that bad.
Right, right. Yeah, I think definitely the Miami bowl game
Yeah.
was pretty awesome experience. I think hosting Louisville and Rick Pitino almost getting in off a fight
The
on
fight. Yeah. Was
uh,
that what was his name? Montrez Harrell or whoever it
yeah,
was.
yeah,
Throwing punches at midcourt.
yeah.
and
I think underrated experience. We got to host U of L for volleyball, NCAA tournament volleyball, and Diddle Arena is sold out for that volleyball game. Like
yeah,
it's like yeah, football can sometimes sell itself, basketball can sell itself. To do that, I thought
yeah.
that was super cool.
Well, I know you can bring it out. I really forget about a lot of these, but we hosted the women's NCAA first round one year, and Pat Summit. Tennessee was playing in Diddle, and so I'm sitting in an ops meeting, with Pat Summit, right, and one of the greatest coaches of all time, regardless of sport or gender, and so no, just some crazy cool opportunities and people who came through Western and Diddle, and the Lane Kiffins were coaching at FAU, walking in on the field, and at Army. I always really loved hosting Army and Navy and getting those flyovers and things that we would get. That was um, just cool experiences. It really was.
And hosting the largest crowd, I think still to date, at Houchin Smith Stadium, hosting Vanderbilt.
Yeah, no, we had some good hot one, but we definitely had it was a great time. We were blessed to be in college athletics, especially at Western during some really cool times. We just the wins are nice, the postseason stuff's nice, the bowls are nice, but just being successful in general and being able to do some good things that we were able to do. It was fun. We were there at a good time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously some great times from WKU, and sounds like you're doing great now. I want to dive kind of go backwards and just talk
Yeah,
about how your faith and your relationship with Jesus has
yeah,
gotten you through this time that we're talking about.
yeah. There's no doubt. Just losing family members in general, especially a parent. But um, I growing, I didn't lose a grandparent until I think I was 31 before I even lost a grandparent, right? So, as a kid, like I was totally spoiled. Both sets of my grandparents were married 60 plus years. My parents married, so they were together since they were in eighth grade, right? So, and then my wife's family. We were just blessed to have amazing leaders and role models, just great, faithful people. And she lost her mom a couple years before, I lost my dad, and she battled a lot of different cancers and had a disease that she couldn't fight off, those entry level cancers. And so every 3 or 4 years, she always picked up something. And so that was a slow and painful to watch. And a lot of times, you do question things like, why is a wonderful, beautiful woman and so faithful, like, have to deal with this and all the corrupt, terrible things in the world? Like, why do our kids, why do we, have to watch this? And why does she have to bear that pain? And you ask a lot of questions, and you got to figure out, at the end of the day, do you really trust God and you have that faith? And at the end of the day, I mean, you feel like the Bible's real or not. And a lot of times you wrestle with some of those things. But for us, and really how we were raised, I mean, we were blessed, man, to have people pour into us. And so for us, we want to be that for others. We want to be that for our kids. Like we want our kid, just the culture we live in now and what they're fighting every day. I mean, what they're fighting as 12 and 13-year olds. We had no part of that. I don't like to consider us real old, but
Mhm.
what they're dealing with at a middle school level now. My wife's a counselor, and the things that she has to deal with and bring home and ask what I'm like, how old are they? 13-year-olds dealing with this at home. Um, it breaks your heart. And so, where we're at, kind of that morally, you hate to call it, kind of corrupt society of just the world trying to take kids down. We want to raise kids that are as strong as possible in their faith, and because they got to have it. I mean, it's at the tips of their fingertips with this crap right here, right? I mean, phones buzzing like crazy right now, and they feel like that's where they get their value, right, from the number of likes and the number of comments and I mean, text messages and group text. I mean, it's you just hold your kid's phone for 2 hours and feel it buzz. I mean, it'll drive you nuts. And so, for us, it's just been that eternal mindset and what are we pouring into our kids?
Yeah.
Uh, we're real big on the fruits of the spirit and the golden rule and trying to be morally sound. And, those are the things that, we're about. And as a business, it's one of the best things I like about what we do is being able to help others. We've got, probably 5 or 6 widows, older widows this year that, have gone out and done camera jobs for them and either not charged or charged very, very little. And so those things matter to us. It mattered to my dad um, of taking care of the community. And so when it comes to us and our values and trying to have, kind of that moral compass of what leads us every day, I can't imagine, the times in my life where I feel like I'm the most solid or the clear direction are the times where I'm the most faithful in my day to day walk. And so it's easy to get away from it and struggling with this decision or that decision. It doesn't mean it's any easier day to day, but as far as that laying my head down at night and having that comfort, I mean, there's no doubt it comes from our faith and knowing, um, what we're all about and where we're headed someday. So, I think the hardest thing at this stage is just instilling that in your kids, as we truly feel like, God trusted us with these beautiful little girls. Why we had to have three beautiful girls, I don't know, but they're our heart and soul, and thinking about sending them off to college and being behind the wheel and the decisions that they've got to make. We just want them to know that there's a God who loves them and what the cross has meant to us, and we're really proud of our kids. They do a great job. I don't give them enough credit, and it's just the circle that that are so unique each kid and how that brings our family together. We're truly blessed, but I think at this point in our life, instilling that confidence in them of keeping their head held high and going about their day. Um, just knowing that the cross can get them through anything. And so far, so good. But I know that they got tough times ahead, and so
Right.
do we. But in every way that we can, we're going to lead them that way.
I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. And I'd always, we were friends in high school, but we didn't hang out a ton in high school. But once we started working together, and you were generous enough to hire me on at Western, to see you like grow to see you with your family, and not just your kids, but your parents and whatnot, and um, uh, yeah, being there for a lot of that, your kids being born and, losing family members, um, you really kind of set the stage for me to, it's like, that's what I want to strive to be. Not the athletic director part of it, but the
Yeah,
family person part of it. So I really appreciate, the time you spent with me and helped out my family. And, all the best in the future. Certainly want to keep in touch and see how things going. It's almost like we were kind of images of you have three girls, I have three boys. And Jesse and I still talk about like, should we try for a girl?
Yeah.
It's going to end up as boy number four, like we know.
Right. No, no, that conversation came up in the Morrison household a lot. Not anymore, but it
I,
was a lot. Melanie was always like, just I want to get you a little boy, and I'm like, nah, it'd be a fourth girl, man. I'm good. Good. I'm good with three, and we have a female dog, so
yeah,
no, I'm good. I'm
yeah.
good. But no, man, that means a lot, and looking back on it, I wish, that's the thing that gets me now is all the conversations, right, that I wish I would have had. And
Mhm.
so, of other people and other folks. And so, sitting here now, reconnecting. I mean, it's crazy sitting in the car rider line with people we grew up with. And,
Mhm.
it's just wanting to have those conversations and be sure that, that people are solid in their faith and that, we're just not missing those opportunities. Just planting seeds, right? With our kids and community and everybody else, you never know when they're going to grow. And a lot of that is what God will do with them. But, we just try to plant those seeds every day and kind of tell our kids that, you're not going to see the beautiful flower on day two, but just keep planting, keep watering, and you never know what will happen. But well, man, I appreciate you guys and glad to see y'all doing well. And if you ever want to, now I see you selling the lake house there, so we may need to have a off Zoom conversation there because Melanie is she's itching to get to the lake, but
Well,
we'll save that for another time.
well, and to circle it back around, Brian Simpson lives right down the road, so
Does he? There you
yeah,
go. Yeah. Well, as the
he's our
story
neighbor up
started, yeah.
there.
No, that's funny.
But last thing is our whole like 2016 staff from WKU. Are they now at Louisville?
Yeah, I think majority of them are.
It breaks
No,
my
it's
heart.
great.
Larry Cash is the only one holding down for me at UK.
Yeah, no, Cash is doing great, and no, I go back and look at those pictures sometimes. They'll pop up on Facebook or wherever, and I we really were. We were there at a good time and a good staff, and had a lot of cool experiences, and no, a lot of good things to look back and smile upon.
Yeah, awesome, Mo. Well, appreciate you doing this, and like I said, we'll be in touch. I'll hit you up. We'll hit the links or something.
Yeah, we need to sometime.
Yeah, all right. Appreciate you, buddy.
All right, take care. See you, Adam.
Have a good one.